Hey, this is Ciderhelm, and this is my long overdue review of Aquaria. You may wonder why I'm reviewing a 2D indie game that's been out for 3 years. It's because Aquaria is one of my all-time favorite adventure games, and I keep being reminded of it when I see other games. In this case, the new underwater zones in Warcraft Cataclysm kept urging me to turn on Zune and play the Aquaria soundtrack. In Aquaria, you play Nyjah, a lonely traveler in an expansive, dangerous, and beautiful ocean. Throughout the game, she seeks her family and her past, and to understand the mysteries of the world she's in. At risk of simplifying a great character, Nyjah is a lot like a druid, able to acquire and shift into many forms and make use of a whole lot of tools. This makes gameplay unique and engaging, and also allows you to solve problems you're faced with in a lot of different ways. In some cases, problems can only be solved one way, requiring a particular form or ability to progress. Nyjah can have a single pet active at any time. These pets must be acquired, and each one has a unique ability that will be valuable to Nyjah at various points. Nyjah can also learn recipes and cook foods. Foods can provide buffs, damage, abilities, pet bonuses, and healing. In the open ocean, she can combine 2 ingredients at once, but when she is at home she can combine 3 ingredients, allowing for special recipes. This is an adventure game in the purest sense. There's lots of combat and lots of danger throughout the ocean. There are lots of places you don't need to go, but can and are rewarded for going to. You'll come across very difficult and unforgiving boss encounters, though you'll usually be able to stay at a distance until you're ready to engage. Sometimes the difficulty of these bosses is rooted in a very particular gimmick that isn't obvious. In one case, inside the Mythalis Cathedral, several attacks on the boss gave feedback that suggested an approach would work when it wouldn't. This is one of the few weaknesses of the game, and in 2 cases I needed to look up a video on YouTube after spending hours trying to figure out a solution. Aquaria has tons of puzzles, ranging from the simple to the extremely in-depth. This is a single-player adventure game, so as much as possible I did not want to resort to looking things up on YouTube or on web forums. However, because I wanted to complete as much as possible in the game, there were at least 2 instances where I went online to look up solutions to puzzles that lasted throughout the entire game and I wasn't prepared for. If you're a completionist and want to avoid looking things up, my advice would be to make sure you're recording every symbol on the wall, every unique song you hear, every tunnel you can't fit through, and every current you can't swim past. You will be able to get back to them later. Fortunately, the map lets you leave markers on it, but screenshots or a pen and paper will help for things you don't want to swim back to. Recipes are the same way. If you want to avoid looking things up, you'll want to write down all of the food combinations you know, and occasionally try to put together foods you're full on to create new combinations. There are lots and lots of foods, and even the negative stat foods can turn into potent buffs for one of your forms. Since the game offers a great experience and story separate of the complicated puzzles and bosses, looking up tips from time to time won't destroy the flow. Do whatever is right for you. The game rewards good, responsive play. However, even after I spent 2 weeks playing and developing a strong muscle memory, I found situations where it was hard to control my character with the precision I wanted. This has a lot to do with momentum in the water, and also virtually any time I needed to jump in and out of the water. I found a number of places where I relied heavily on foods I had crafted to brute force my way through difficult situations. Fortunately, this is entirely possible for any player. Because of the game's movement system, I recommend playing the game start to finish without taking a break for longer than a few days. As you can see in this movie, my control over Nyjah is not very strong, since I haven't played this game in several months. I originally purchased this game around the time it came out, but had to restart it later because I felt I needed to relearn the controls again. Sometimes Nyjah will give hints, but they're not always strongly worded. For instance, in my first adventure into the darkest depths of the ocean, Nyjah suggested it would be easier with a source of light. I took this as a challenge, and went as far down as I could get, eventually reaching a save point at the far end of the zone. Still pitch black, I eventually realized I couldn't go anywhere else in the zone and turned around. It took me the rest of the evening to get myself back out. For those starting the game, a very simple recommendation would be to make sure you've covered the end bosses of Mythalis, the Kelp Forest, and the Sun Temple before going into the darkest areas of the world. Ultimately, the only major flaws in this game are the control difficulties and the few encounters that require extremely gimmicky solutions. On a more minor note, this is definitely a game for people who want to explore and find their own way through it, but sometimes you can wind up trapped if you're not prepared. If you like adventure games, you should play this. If you like Castlevania, Metroid, or Final Fantasy games, you should play this. If you play a druid in World of Warcraft and like the new underwater zones, you should definitely play this. Aquaria can be purchased on Steam. For purchase information, check the YouTube information box below.